So where you first either met, heard of her, first memory?
I remember we had a track camp. My wife, the head coach, we would have Loretta Smith. We would have a little track clinic for eighth graders or anybody coming into Warren Central. And I think that's the first time I saw Promise. I think she was working on hurdles, and then she was doing some long jump stuff. And she was getting ready for junior season or something. And so I got a chance to kind of see her, and I knew she was athletic. She had a lot of potential and skill. She was just really young, just right off the middle school bus. She was going to be a freshman, so I think that was the first time I saw her up close working with her dad.
First time I seen or heard of Coach was my eighth grade year we have like a middle school meet when all the middle schools come to Warren and run. And that's when I seen him. And then I knew Caitlin Redmond. She went here. She graduated my freshman year. Well, she graduated the summer of my freshman year. And she would tell me how good he is. And so I came here and yeah, I met him.
Yeah. I do remember that meet. I think she jumped 17.2.
Yeah.
17. She jumped over 17 feet at that meet. And that was the first time I actually laid eyes on her. And then I didn't get a chance to talk to her until that summer. We had our track camp.
The first time I met Promise, it was actually through a counselor at her middle school, and she called me and said, "You got to meet this girl." I said, "Why?" "Because she's a long jumper, and you're a long jumper, and you love her. She's Anthony Hoosier's daughter." Well, actually, I coached Promise's dad when he was at that same middle school. And so I said, "Oh, well, we'll see." Well, the next year came around. They still didn't see me until I saw the grandmother, which is Anthony's mom, and she said, "You got to meet my granddaughter." I said, "Who's that?" She said, "She long jumps." I said, "Oh my God, now this is twice." So then the third time, it was, I have to see this young lady. So I actually did. I had an opportunity to work with Warren Central for a year, and I got to meet Promise for the first time and her long jumping, and I got to see her development. Unfortunately, she had the misfortune, but also a blessing because she got healed of an injury, and I knew that she was going to be okay. I felt that way. I talked to her dad, and I said, "Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be all right." The next year, she was more than all right. My thing with Promise was just mainly encouragement. As another long jumper, a fellow long jumper, just to see her excel and to get better and watch her get better, and just kind of tweak some little small things. There's been times where we had a little bit of a misunderstanding of what I need her to do, and she might look at me like, but she was steadfast, and she kept going, and she worked hard, and the result was her championship. So to come from where she was after an injury and to rehab, stay with the program, listen to her coaches, allow me to even step in and work with her as well, I was real proud of her, because any coach knows that when they exceed what you've done, then that's that's what we coach for, is to see somebody else do better than us, and I see more coming. So what I see in her future is Olympic trials. She's only a few inches away from qualifying, and she's still in high school. So I'm really excited and waiting to see how she does her senior year, and also we'll follow her throughout her college career. I'm Donna Branham, used to be Donna Pope Green.
I long jumped one time, or it was my eighth grade year. I long jumped at Creston Junior High at the time, and I jumped. My longest jump during that time was like 18 feet, and then going into high school, it just didn't translate over. I didn't continue to long jump in high school, so my long jump career was very short lived.
All right. So then, the first moments you knew she was gonna be in track.
Actually, I work for the Parks Department, so we host a Hershey meet. It's like a little beginner track meet, and she was like, I want to run. So we put her in there, and like she won. I was like, oh, okay, like she got something. She got something we can work with. So I think that was the first time like I kind of knew she would be something special along the lines.
How old was she in that?
She was about 8 or 9 years old. I know that's a little bit too old to tell, but sometimes certain people just catch your eye and you just see something special in that.
So then kind of to middle school.
Middle school was a different beast. She actually ran the 800 in middle school at the beginning. She didn't. She wasn't a sprinter in middle school. She didn't turn into a sprinter to her 7th grade year. She ran in 6th grade. Started in 6th grade. So 7th grade she sprinted. 8th grade was the year that I told her we need to try another event, just to see what we can do as far as going to college. And I said long jump. She pushed back, but then she said, "Dad, I want to try long jump." So that's where the journey began.
Did you do any track events at all?
No, I did not do any track events, but I played basketball in middle school. And actually, I don't even think Pope Green remembers me, but she was one of my coaches in 7th grade at Creston Middle School. So that's about all the sports I played. So the first memory of that I can recall is when I was pregnant with Prommyse, and I was at my cousin Tammy's church, and there was a mission from Africa. And I was about 7 months pregnant with her, and he walked over to me and prophesied that she was going to do great things. And I was very shocked by the prophecy, and I went and told Anthony, her dad, and I was, at the time you wonder, like, what was the prophecy about? But as it's being fulfilled, you just see great things that God has done for her. And that's one thing that we have instilled in Prommyse, is to keep God first in all that she does.
And then any other first memories of her doing track?
When she was 9 years old, as her dad had mentioned, she ran in the Hershey track meet, and she did a really good job. And so we put her in summer track with AAU, and she had fallen one time, and we recorded that, and she's come a long way. USA track and field meet when she was about 9 years old. And she fell and running the 100, and she was so embarrassed and just felt defeated. And so my husband talked to her, and she wiped her tears, went out there and ran the 200. And I just gave her so much props for going out there and having determination to continue on, even though she fell and made a mistake. She kept going. Another memory I have of Prommyse, when she first started running when she was 9 years old. She had a pair of Pumas, and that pair of Pumas, she ran those Pumas till the toes, you could see her toes at the bottom of her shoe, and she did not want to get rid of those shoes. We had to make her get a new pair, and it was really hard for her to get rid of this pair. Middle school, Prommyse started running in 7th grade, and she did a really good job running the 100, 200, and she ran a lot of 400s that year. And then her 8th grade year was when she began getting training from Coach Harry, and from that moment on, she's blossomed into a phenomenal jumper, a phenomenal athlete, and God has really blessed her throughout the entire process of having great coaches and having a good mindset of listening to the coaches and really taking to heart what they say and honoring what they say and honoring God in what she does.
I'm Harry Edwards. I own Indies Racing Cheetahs, and I was probably, I believe, Prommyse's first long jump coach.
So your first time meeting her?
I have a rule that when I don't recruit other athletes because they're with their teams, I'm with my teams. Well, she was unattached and had run with Camille Christopher, and Coach Wenda recruited her at a track meet to come run with us. So that's the first time I met her, and I would have never met her if Coach Wenda hadn't been there. I just don't even pay attention to other athletes, so I would have never had the honor to, but God would have worked it out anyway somehow. But yeah, so that was my first meeting at a track meet, and we had athletes running against her. Very talented young lady, very good sprinter. When she did join the Cheetahs, she was on maybe the best relay team that we've ever had as a 4x1 team. Not 4x4, but 4x1. And she's just a very coachable young lady. Never, no back talk or very much talk at all, but she just always, tried to do the things you told her to do. It was during an indoor season when Prommyse was trying to, first time long jumping, and I work with the long jumpers, and just really a lot of speed, and just trying to get her to understand to just run and jump, and how we teach in the land. And just like most young long jumpers, she was more concerned with fouling. She didn't want to foul, so therefore she wouldn't just sprint and use her speed. And her first time in a long jump meet, she was I think she was a 7th or 8th grader, and she jumped a total of 14 feet. Maybe 14.6, 14.7, but nothing record shattering. But it wasn't until that spring, her dad asked me to do private lessons with her. And being in a one-on-one setting, that allowed her to just kind of be a little bit more relaxed. The thing that was interesting about the whole long jump experience with me was that her dad was always, a little bit skeptical. Let me see it. I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. Because I was telling her, she'll jump 16 feet in middle school, and then she jumped 16 feet. And, she'll jump 17 feet. I have to see it. Well, she was at a meet, and he texted me or called me. I think he called me and said, "Prommyse just jumped 17 too." Every step along the way, when he saw it, he believed it. And it was so cool because by the time she was a senior in high school, not senior, but maybe a junior, he was saying, I think she can break the record. As opposed to just needing to see it. Now all of a sudden, he didn't know where her ceiling was as well. And just a great kid, though. I mean, I have nothing but fond memories. She's hardworking. Everything I ever asked her to try to do, she tried to do it. And that was just a testament to her being very coachable.
Okay, when I first met Prommyse, it was, I guess, her and my daughter joined the Lawrence Blazers track team. And I guess I coached there too as a volunteer coach. And we realized that we had a couple special kids on the team. Prommyse, my daughter Camille Christopher, and there was a few others, their first time ever running track. And they, Prommyse and Camille and a few other girls, made it to the USA Junior Olympics in Sacramento. Prommyse and Camille made it in the 100 and the 200. They were excited about going on their first trip. We made it to Sacramento, California. Prommyse and her mom missed their flight. We were disappointed that they couldn't get there. Camille cried, of course, but that was my first memory of Prommyse. I met Prommyse again. I guess the girls were 11, 12. And like Coach Harry said, we met him at a track meet, and Prommyse was running unattached, and I begged her dad to have her come run with the Indy Racing Cheetahs under Coach Harry, so she could have an experience running with a team and running on a relay. I think that year, her first year, they made it to AAU Junior Nationals, and they made it to the finals in the 4x1 relay. Then I just encouraged Prommyse each time I saw her at track meets to do her best in whatever event she was running. She's an excellent sprinter, even though she thinks she's a better long jumper.
I'm going to touch on what Coach Wenda had mentioned about Prommyse and her daughter Camille Christopher running and making it to the USA Track and Field Junior Olympics when they were 9 and 10 years old. We had got our flight from Indianapolis Airport to Chicago, and there was a storm cloud around Chicago, so we had to fly around Chicago for about 2 hours. And by the time we had our landing in Chicago, the connecting flight to Sacramento, California was gone, and they didn't delay the flight. And so we were standing in the airport, and Prommyse had worked so hard with her team that summer to make it to the Junior Olympics in California, and she was so upset that she didn't get to make it to California. The connecting flights that we were able to get to California, where they were all booked, they couldn't even get us home. And we had to stay in Chicago for 2 days. And she missed running the Junior Olympics because of flight delays. And she had been worked so hard and was very disappointed. And I'm thankful for the opportunity that God has blessed her with to be an All-American last year, last summer for the USA Track and Field Junior Olympics. And I pray that she just continues to do her best in all that she does.
Freshman year.
Freshman year, I think with Prommyse, because her and Caitlin had jumped 19.8 for me, and to be honest, they were kind of built the same, similar look, and I think with Prommyse, the expectation was that she was going to come in as a freshman and just pick up where Caitlin left off, which was totally unfair to her because, like I said, she was just right off the middle school bus, 14, and by the time we were done with Caitlin, she was a grown woman. She was able to do college workouts. So the expectations for Prommyse were a little bit unrealistic for everybody, a lot of people on the team and around the community, I would say, but I kind of knew that she wasn't ready yet and was going to take some time. And there was some growing pains there, but I just think because they were so similar in build, Prommyse wanted to learn how to do the hitch kick, and I taught Caitlin, so I was trying to teach Prommyse, and I knew it was going to take some time. So I was kind of unfair to her, but she weathered that storm. That was a tough one for her. It wasn't anything that we could do about it. Everybody has expectations when you have a talent like that coming in, but she did a good job in just learning and growing that first year out.
My freshman year was a lot. Yeah, I was, like, people were expecting me to come in and do big things. It put a lot of pressure on me, and starting with volleyball, because I had actually made varsity with volleyball, and I started and stuff, and then came to track, and it was like I was thrown in with all the juniors and seniors, but that pushed me, and I had ended up going to state, and I got 5th, I think.
Yeah. So she grew a lot. I don't think people really understood that my wife and I, the coaching staff, we had a plan for her. The plan was to get her some state experience, in the sprint. So she led off our 4x1, and she was surrounded by a lot of really talented girls that we didn't want to have Prommyse feel like she had to carry the load. So that was a great addition to our 4x1. And then for her to just be able to go to the long jump and just be comfortable. And I think that was the whole key for her. She took 5th. And again, when you're a freshman and you jump 18.5 or whatever it was, the expectations raise again the following year. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't when it comes to those kind of things. But I think the plan was in place for her, and I think it worked out perfectly.
High school freshman year was tough. Just the whole big school atmosphere, and I know the expectations that she had coming in from her previous year in 8th grade as far as long jumping and some sprinting. And it was rough, but at the end, like she, with great coaching, the Smiths brought her along, and she went along to state and placed 5th. Which I was very shocked and surprised and proud all at the same time.
Starting her sophomore year, again, expectations were high. She was 5th, I think, in Indiana runner had predicted her to win. And so now you're looking at somebody that they think is going to win this event 3 years in a row and also become this breakout sprinter. But with anything, you know, man makes plans and God laughs. So what happened, she develops a stress fracture early in the season, and we never could, you know, get it under control. And Prommyse, you know, being the trooper she was, she just kept fighting through it and fighting through it. And she did come back healthy towards the end, but the conditioning, so it was an up and down sophomore year, I would say. It was really up and down, just trying to manage the injury and keep moving forward. I think Prommyse really stayed positive throughout the whole thing. She did the best she could, but you know, when the injury bugs, and one thing about those kind of stress reaction injuries, it's not from, you don't get hurt from not doing anything, it's just that she was pushing herself trying to be better. And I think that was what happened. It was just rest versus hard work. And just ran into that injury bug sophomore year. And I don't, did you make it to state? No. I think we were hanging on by a thread because of the conditioning factor. So if we hit the board, it was great. If we didn't hit the board, it was not so great. And so she filed all three. And as a coach, when you're sitting there at the regional, it's really tough because you struggle with the words. And I think Prommyse held it together. She helped us in the 100, and she kind of did some other things for us on the relay. But her baby, not to be able to go to state, her baby was really, really difficult.
Yeah, sophomore year was rough because I had the stress fracture, and then it would just keep, like, the pain in my shin would just keep coming back. And then it sucked that I was seeded to win state in a long jump and I didn't make it. And everybody was like, oh, wow, she scratched out. And then the girl that I was supposed to be had won. And so it was kind of like, when I was at the state meet, I was kind of like down because I seen she had won and I was seeded to win. So that was kind of humbling and tough for me my sophomore year. So, yeah.
Sophomore year was a rough patch also. She caught a stress fracture in her shin, so she missed pretty much close to over half of the season. Came back strong. Long jump, she was also projected maybe top 2 or 3 in the state at the time, and came to regionals, and she scratched all 3 of her jumps and didn't get to make it to state that year, and it was very tough for her.
I think after that state meet, I just think she got healthy, and then we went into the season as we do every year with the plan. And the plan was to, you know, reclaim what we felt was ours that we lost out on. And lo and behold, we get a call during volleyball season, and Prommyse says, you know, I twisted my knee. And I was like, okay, we'll get it checked out. And then she gave me the phone call about a week later after the MRI.
I tore my ACL. And some people, like, I call this a blessing, and some people might think I'm crazy for calling this a blessing, but it really, like, tearing my ACL pushed me, and it made me better, and it made me who I am today, and I'm glad that God put me through it. And I had went from, what was I seated?
Oh, man.
I wasn't seated high. And then whenever I tore my ACL, everybody kept asking me, like, people would find out and I didn't know how. And then everybody would ask me if I was going to compete last year. And so I had my surgery in September. And I gradually started getting back into running. And I started long jumping. I started back long jumping in March or April. And it was kind of tougher with long jump because my jumping leg was my ACL leg. So putting all the pounding on the board and stuff was tough. But hard work really does pay off. And I prayed a lot. And God is really good because without Him, I don't know what I would have done.
I think it was tough when she told me. And then I think I told her that this is the age of modern medicine. And I said, if the doctor says you're going to be back in 7 months, you're going to be back. And I was hell bent on just saying, Prommyse, we're going to sprint this year and we're going to long jump next year, or senior year. And then she looked me in the eye. She said, no, I'm going to jump. She said, I'm going to long jump. And And that was a call to me. She said, I'm going to long jump. I'm the jumper. You're the coach. You got to figure out how to get me there. And I prayed about it, and I'm not going to lie, I was scared because I didn't know. I knew she could come back, and but I had to develop a different type of long jump program for her because of the traditional things that long jumpers do she couldn't do. So I was really creative and used my background as a high jumper to come up with a creative plan for her. And there were some days when she didn't think she was going to make it, you know, and I always had to stay positive. And I think the last thing I really said to her on one of her bad days was, I said, everybody says, you know, Prommyse, we would have those times when she would say, why me, why me? And I said, you're a child of faith, honey, and this is tough to say. This is very difficult to say, but sometimes you have to say, why not me? Why not me? God, why not me? If this is something that somebody has to carry, why not me? I'll carry it. And I think day by day, she became more confident, week by week, milestone by milestone, had a great training staff, great rehabilitation staff, and she followed the plan. She did everything we asked her to do, and slowly but surely those jumps started to come around, and just gaining confidence on it. Once the doctor said, you're not gonna tear it, go. And I think that's what we went on, but just her faith and her strength gave me strength, because there were times when I didn't know and I couldn't tell her that. I had to say, hey, we're gonna be okay, it's gonna be sore today. Because I had an injury similar too, so I knew what she was going through. So I think we learned a lot about each other, and you know, in faith, you know, it was. I think some of those days was the only thing we could get us through. Was that, you know, we'll be back out here the next day.
Yeah, and it was good. It was good because people were asking if I was going to be able to compete, obviously, and after my surgery. And then, like, further into the season, I had started competing and I was doing well. And then, like, sectionals and regionals came around, and I started jumping further than my PRs. I think I broke the sectional and regional record. And then people were asking if I was going to break the state record and wondering if I was going to break the state record. So then I got to state, and I actually won state. And so that was good just because my sophomore year, whenever I scratched all my jumps in sectionals, regionals, whatever. And yeah, so that was really uplifting. And then a week or two later, I had jumped in the Junior Worlds meet, and I got in third. Top two went to Finland, which I was satisfied either way because I had PR'd, and then it was just a lot because all the coaches had started calling me and stuff. So, but I don't know. So junior year really made me realize a lot. So yeah.
And I really think she came into her own. I always ask Prommyse, you know, how do you feel? You ready? And right before juniors, when she was about to jump against the big girls in college, I looked at her and I said, "You ready?" And she said, "Yeah, I am." And that was it. And I said, "This girl has arrived." And from then on, it was boom, boom, boom. And then she threw me a curveball. She said, "I want to compete in Junior Olympics." I think it was like late July. So we really had to hold on to our fitness and be creative about making sure she stayed in shape and not overtraining her when she was tired. And so I'll never forget, you know, USA Championships. She looked me right now and she just said, "I'm ready." I said, "You got this?" She said, "I'm ready." And the warm-up was just leisurely. It was calm. It was cool. It was collective. She hit her marks, and I think you jumped the best you've ever jumped. So it was meant to be.
Junior year started out with an ACL tear. She played volleyball, and she tore her ACL in August. September, she came in, and we had the surgery in September. And I just told her, like, it's going to take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but you can make it back for track season. And it just, moving on, I mean, she just exploded. I mean, I kind of felt that this was going to be her junior year was going to be huge after that surgery. And she just took it to a whole different level, more than what I could even imagine.
High school, she's come a long way. I know the coaches have worked with her. Her freshman year, she started out, and it was really rough, just emotionally, and physically, she's been through a lot, as far as getting her ACL torn and just coming back from a lot of hardships and things like that. And God has really blessed her and humbled her at the same time. So I just pray that she continues to know where her blessings come from, and that she continues to acknowledge God in all her ways.
As far as a senior year, I come into every year with all our seniors, and I tell them, I said, okay, even starting with my niece Ashley Spencer at LN, I said, okay, now you have to rewrite the record books. I said, so that's the goal I have for her, is to come in the best shape of your life. She took an extended break in terms of rest, and now she's back and she's lifting, she's running, she's doing things that she couldn't do last year at this time because of the surgery. And my goal for her is to rewrite the record books and just make sure you go down as one of the best to ever do it in the state of Indiana as a high school young lady. And I think she should shoot for nothing less, because she's talented enough, she has the ability, and we always come into every year with the plan. So I think those are my goals for her.
Following coach's plan and training hard as I did last year, and not letting any of the hype and stuff get to my head. I'm gonna try to qualify for Olympic trials, and I would have to jump, I think 4 or 5 feet or inches further. And then so following coach's plan and trusting him, I think I can do it. So, and trusting God. So yeah.
I think with all of this ability and the jump and the travel and the school choice, if you're not grounded, if you don't have a good support system and family and coaches and friends, it can get to your head, and she could become a nightmare to coach, but she's not. And I think that's the wonderful thing about it. She has a really good support system here at Warren. I think everybody's behind her 100%, and it keeps you grounded. And to come from a school where you have elite athletes that come out every day, every year, so it's not unprecedented to see an athlete go to SEC or Big 10 or Big 12, wherever they want to go. So I think that also helps as well.
I think something you wanted to always remember.
To be humble, and to believe in yourself, and push yourself, and have confidence in yourself.
Anything else you want to speak on?
That I'm always be there if you need me, and encouraging you, and I love you.
I always want to remember, and I tell people this all the time, just keep working hard. Just keep working hard. When Steve Smith took her from being an 18-foot jumper to a 20-plus foot jumper, I at a track meet, I took my hat off to him. Said, man, I used to think I was the best long jump coach in the world. I took my hat off to him and said, no, man, you took her further than I ever thought. I had never coached a 20-foot jumper before, so I tipped my hat to Steve that he was best long jump coach I knew. Of course, then I realized later I wanted my hat back because Steve ain't coached 8-year-olds. And I told him, until you coach 8-year-olds, I'll keep this hat. But that was just a memory of just being able to be a part of the whole process. She never got too big for the events, never got too big for the moments, and was always humble about things.
I just want her to stay healthy, work hard, continue to work hard, do everything that she's been doing that brought her to this point. She has goals. I always tell her to write her goals down at the beginning of the season and just go have fun senior year and tackle your goals. Her goals is to break some records, a state record, possibly hitting Olympic trial standards. So, I mean, if that's what she wants, I feel like she's more than, she has the coaching and she has the talent to reach her goals this year.
What's one thing you want her to always remember?
Just remember that I'm always proud of her. Proud and to continue to work hard. The world is yours. So, I mean, as long as you continue to do what I've told her to do, and continue to focus and work hard in and out of the classroom, on the track, she would be very, very successful, and people will remember her name for a long, long time.
One thing I always want her to remember is to keep God first and to always listen to Him and listen to her coaches and continue with perseverance, determination, and she will continue to be successful.
I'm proud of you and good luck in college.
I'm proud of you, Prommyse.